I'd like to start the Metro-North meeting for the month of January. First on the agenda is public comments. We have Bill Henderson from the PCAC.
I just want to make a couple of comments about the service cuts. Understandably, we're very concerned about the service cuts. We want to say that we recognize that Metro-North management had a very difficult situation here, and that Metro-North management strove to implement the cuts that would have the least impact on individual passengers. That they put a lot of work into the package that they put together, and obviously did a lot of deliberations over balancing maintaining an acceptable level of service with serving the most people possible. However, in addition to the impacts on the individuals, we're also concerned about the impacts on the system and the impacts on the robustness of the network. Some of the choices that unfortunately have had to be made reduce the robustness of the network and reduce the ability to rely on the network as a transportation source. When you cut a west of Hudson train that makes it impossible for people to use that train to get to work early in the morning, that diminishes the network. We know that the chances for additional resources are not great, but we ask that this committee look for every opportunity to put resources back into the system and stave off some of these cuts, and we're happy to work with you in any way we can to try to find those resources. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, I need a motion to approve the minutes as submitted. I've got a motion. I get a second, please. All in favor? Any against?
Yeah, just a couple of things. I wanted to first introduce to the committee Bob Walker. Bob is a longtime veteran of Metro-North and his predecessor railroads. He is now our chief engineer, assistant vice president of MFW. Also, Ron Yutko has retired, and I wanted to introduce Tim McCarthy. Tim is acting senior director of capital programs and will be taking Ron's place in the interim. Two other things I want to mention. One is today at CPOC, there will be a presentation on PTC that we will be giving to the Long Island Railroad, and that's kind of lay out where we are on that whole topic. And finally, and Bob will talk about it, but I wanted to highlight it, we had a couple of weekends ago a perfect weekend on Metro-North, something that never happened before. Every train ran on time, both east and west of Hudson. That's over 850 trains. It's a terrific achievement for the whole team, particularly for the operating division, to make that happen. And so I wanted to personally highlight that to everyone today in recognition of that achievement. That's it, Jim.
Great. Okay. Committee work plan has not changed, so we won't need a vote. Status of operations.
All right, the status of the operations OTP data can be found on page 12 in your agenda book. In 2009, we operated at 97.8%, which was above our goal of 97.6%. Carried out to the hundredths, actually 2009 was a record year for Metro-North, slightly higher than the previous record, which was in 2006. AM, PM, off-peak were all above goal for the year. We operated at or above our goal of 97.6 for 9 months last year. In fact, we ran above 98% for 7 of those months. A couple other little tidbits. We ran 95% or better on 334 days of the year last year, and there were only 4 days where we ran below 90%. Total number of delays dropped significantly from 08 to 09. We were down 11,900 plus minutes. We operated a total of 211,370 revenue trains, which was 2,249 more than in 2008. And of those trains, 99.8% were completed, and 97.5 were operated with a full concept. consist. And we've now operated over 96% for 13 consecutive years, and for the 5th consecutive year, we are at or above 97.5%. So just a couple of facts about our OTP. West of Hudson, in 2009, the West of Hudson service operated at 96%, which was the same as 2008. It was actually below our goal of 96.2%. The Port Jervis line operated at 95.4, which is above goal of 95. However, the Pascack Valley was at 96.5, which was below our goal of 97. On both sides, we are off to a very good start in 2010. As Howard mentioned, we've had 3 100% days so far this year, and the first ever weekend. Month to date, east of Hudson, we're at 98.8, and month to date west of Hudson, we're at 98.6. So we're off to a very, very good start in 2010. The MDBF data can be found on page 17 of your agenda book, and for November we had another very good month. 159,929 was the MDBF, above a goal of 105,000, and that brings our year-to-date number up to 118,534. I'll be pleased to answer any questions if you have any.
Some real impressive numbers there.
Thank you.
Any questions or comments? Okay, thank you. Financial report. Kim?
Okay, good morning. I will provide some highlights to you on the year-to-date November 2009 financial results. I'd like to highlight the page 38, which provides for variances against the November forecast, otherwise known as the year-end forecast. As you can see, year-to-date November, overall net deficit is favorable to the year-end forecast by $38.5 million. If you exclude non-cash liability adjustments, that amount is $21.4 million. Very positive note, total revenues for year-to-date November is favorable by $4 million. Roughly half of that is due to ridership. For the month of November, ridership is 1% positive the year-end forecast. And in comparison to last year, which is 2008, month-over-month ridership losses are continuing to decrease. What we saw was through the spring and summer of 2009, ridership losses grew upward to 6.4, then leveled off in September and October to 5%. Now those declines are running at 3%. So more positive declines in our losses. We are seeing some favorable results in the commutation as well as non-commutation markets. And the other half of a favorable variance is also in the area of other operating revenues. GCT net retail revenues are favorable in the area of percentage rentals, so our major tenants are doing well in revenues. We are also having more bookings in Vanderbilt Hall events, and GCT LaSalle management fees have declined due to administrative constraints and controls over those expenditures such as marketing and advertising. In the area of expenditures, total expenditures for year-to-date is $23.3 million positive. About 9 is related to labor. Most of those are due to favorable variances in straight time and overtime as a result of continuing vacancies that are running through the organization. We are also positive on reimbursable overhead, and non-labor is positive by $14 million. Continuing positive variances in traction propulsion power, and all other expenditures continue to be positive, but there's still the activity for December that still needs to be seen. All other details are provided, and I'm available for any questions.
Any questions? Thanks, Kim. Monthly ridership.
Good morning. The monthly ridership report for November is in your book starting on page 40. I'm going to give you a few highlights. November ridership, we were down 2.9% compared to the same month last year. Year-to-date, ridership is down 4%. The 2.9% in November actually is not quite the same across all 3 lines. The Harlem and Hudson lines were both down about 4%, and the New Haven line was down just 1.4%. So that's a beginning of, we'll see, we'll be watching that closely to see if that trend continues. Commutation was not down as bad as we had seen in the earlier months. We've been seeing 7 to 8% or even higher. Commutation ridership in November was down just 6.7%. Again, we'll be seeing if this is starting to bottom out. In non-com ridership in November, partly helped by some nice weather, we were actually up 2.3%. Positive numbers these days are always very nice to see overall. So we're up 2% non-com ridership. To from Manhattan and intermediate both declined. West of the river, November ridership was down 2.1% as compared to year-to-date of minus 7.7, so that's actually much better than we've been seeing earlier in the year. And by line, the Port Jervis was down 5, but the Pascack Valley was up over 5% in the month of November compared to the same month last year. So again, positive numbers are good to see. I'll just mention briefly some holiday results. You'll be seeing more holiday results when we get to March when we do our annual wrap-up. But over the holidays, it was a mixed bag. We had a mix of good weather and bad weather. New Year's Eve, which is always a significant event for us, actually ridership was up 6% compared to last year after midnight, out of here through 6 a.m. That's good. Some other days were down, largely driven by the overall trends excuse me, we've been seeing this fall in terms of ridership being somewhat lower than we'd seen a year ago. So we had a few days when ridership was up. We had some other days when ridership was down compared to a year ago. Any questions?
Any questions? Thank you. Tim?
Excuse me. The highlights are beginning on page 50 in your book, and I'd like to update you on that. For 2009, our year-end results are as follows. For commitments, we only made 77% versus a goal of 90%, but that was somewhat offset by the fact that we had determined not to award a substation project due to the financial uncertainty. We were ready to award that project. We had funding and good bids in place. Had we made that award, we would have been about 94% versus the 90% goal. Our completions were at 88% versus a goal of 90%, and our contract cost growth was at 2.5% versus a goal of 5%. Pretty good numbers, I think, for Ron. As highlights, the first pair of M8s has been delivered to the New Haven site for testing. It was delivered actually on Christmas Eve. Second pair is en route between Baltimore and New Haven. It is actually in Selkirk right now. And the third pair is on the ocean, should be docking in Baltimore about the end of the month. In support of that, it's a condoc commitment, but they awarded the CCO shop, which is going to be a major maintenance facility up in New Haven for the component change-out shop. That was awarded last year, and it'll be a 3-year construction to support the M8 fleet. At Tarrytown Station, a portion of the Track 2 and 4 platform went into service on December 28th, which allowed the additional demolition of the rest of the 2 and 4 platform. And at Ossining, the north half of the 1 and 3 platform was closed down for demolition. As we had previously reported, the south half was put into service. And I'm open for any questions.
Any questions for Tim? Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, we can take a trip up. They're in New Haven. We'll be there for a few months. They're beautiful cars. Okay, we'll set that up.
Okay, our safety report.
Good morning. I'll summarize the results, which are in your books beginning on page 55. These are results through November, and unfortunately at this point we haven't been able to make a significant impact on the unfavorable trend that we've been reporting on pretty much throughout 2009. The employee injuries were up from 164 to 208, a 27% increase. The lost time and restricted duty injuries adjusted for work hours were up from 1.2 per 200,000 hours to 2.2 per 200,000 hours. And the FRA reportable employee injuries, again adjusted for work hours, were up from 2.0 to 2.8 per 200,000 hours. On page 57, on the customer injuries, a better story here. Customer injuries were down from 240 during this period in 2008 to 192 in 2009, 20% decrease. Adjusted for ridership, that's a decrease from 3.2 injuries per million rides to 2.7, a 16% decrease. And the FRA reportable injuries were down from 24 to 18. I would point out, because we only show a single decimal place in the book, they both show as 0.3, but it's actually 0.25 versus 0.32, a 22% decrease in FRA reportable customer injuries. I'd be glad to answer any questions.
Any questions? Thank you. MTA Police Report.
Good morning, everybody. Page 59 and page 60 contain the numbers for the system-wide results of the MTA Police for 2009 as well as the Northern Region. The most significant reduction we've had is in our larcenies from 08 to 09, and that has brought our amount of felonies down by 58, which is a pretty large number. The last few numbers we were running, last few years, 07 and 08, we were running around 160. We brought that number down to 108. It'll be a hard number to achieve this year, but we'll continue to do so. Overall, we continue to do the See Something, Say Something program, as well as conducting our random bag inspections in Grand Central, as well as the outer suburbs. And that's all I have for now, and I can answer any questions.
Any questions? Thank you. Okay, information items.
Okay, we have two items. The first is we're going to show you a demonstration of the Metro North train time. Let me just speak to this for a minute. As the chairman laid out at his speech a week or so ago, one of the objectives is improving real-time information for customers. I'm very pleased to say that Metro North has already taken the first step and introduced a week and a half ago with the new MTA website, we simultaneously introduced this new service, which is called Train Time, which will provide real-time information. This was an effort that was a multi-year effort, multi-departmental effort. It was headed up by George Oakvat and Phil Diaz, who's with George there. They'll take you very quickly through what this new service is. We think this is something, we know this is something our customers will really benefit from and are very pleased with.
Thank you, Howard. It's my pleasure to be here this morning to give you a brief demonstration about Train Time and a quick introduction about how it works. Train Time went live on January 13th, and it's going to be a tremendous benefit for our customers. It changes the way we do business. In the past, we reported public information on an exception basis, and now we'll be able to provide real-time train information directly to customers' PCs and handheld devices. It was developed by in-house talent at a low cost. The three key departments that were involved in this was the Customer Service Department, our IT Department, and our Communications and Signals Department. The IT Department, who many of the members of the team are here, under Vanessa Primus and John Larson, and others on her staff, as well as the Customer Service team, who is the ultimate users, Phil Diaz, as Howard mentioned, and Ann Doyle and Sean Fahey. But the IT Department developed the programming and the software application, and the Communications and Signals Department provided the ability to receive information from the existing signal system. We currently have 67 stations available, including Grand Central Terminal and Harlem 125th Street, and an additional 28 stations will become available by the end of April. Unfortunately, Train Time will not be available in the near future to our Danbury and Waterbury customers because of a different type of signal system there. Also, our Western customers will have similar information available to them using data vision, which I will discuss during the demonstration. Train Time also supports the Chairman's goals, Howard said, by bringing additional and new technology to the MTA family. A quick run-through of how it works. If you look in the lower left-hand corner, you can see the Train Time logo. That'll link to the application itself, or you can go to the Metro North homepage, and on the homepage we have 3 links currently available. The Train Time logo, which is the same as it was on the MTA homepage, and then under useful links, the link to the Train Time application there. Let me take you to the application itself, and we'll show you how it works. You'll note that Grand Central Terminal is the default. It's one of our most popular stations. We feel customers use it the most, so we made that one the default. You select a station from the default. I know we have members on the board here from Dutchess County, so we thought we'd choose New Hamburg. not to leave out the Putnam or Westchester folks, but we have those also. And you select the station, it'll drop down, it'll show the next 12 trains for the next 5 hours. The first column shows the departure time for the train, the destination for the train, the default track assignment. It is very unique that the default track assignment will automatically change as the trains are rerouted if they should happen to be. Also under the status indicator, you see on time, and that's typical for what you'll see because when you run a 98% on-time operation, we like to see that. But if we do run trains late, after the 5-minute and 59-second threshold, the actual time will be displayed along with possibly canceled or delayed, which we hope we never do. And then you can select the stops, and it'll show the individual stops for that train. There's another link that we can show you that'll show, again, on the bottom there, the stations. Those are the stations that we currently have. This is a list of the stations we currently have, and then going back to the application, we also show the stations that will be coming in April. In addition to the 2 links I just showed you, if you happen to be at one of the station home pages, you can go from the actual home page to the application by selecting the station. And it'll bring you directly to the 12 train display. So for customers who happen to be searching for a station, they can go right directly to it. And as I mentioned earlier, Departure Vision. Departure Vision is an application that was built by New Jersey Transit. It links our West of Hudson customers to a very similar application. And to show you that real briefly, you go to their application, select a similar drop-down. And it displays the same similar information for our West of Hudson customers. But I think even more importantly is the wireless or handheld applications, which is really the key of the wave of the future right now, where customers using PDAs, Apple iPhones, BlackBerries can go to the PDA and see the same information that we're currently showing on a desktop. We have a scalable application that provides the reconfiguration of the displays depending on the type of device used. Members of the IT and customer service team this morning have the BlackBerries with them, and we'll be glad to show you in person after the presentation, after the meeting this morning, if you'd like to actually see it. We know that this has been a huge success. In the first 10 days, we've had over 33,000 customers view the application. The success for that is because of our corporate media relations department, along with our marketing department. They provided an excellent promotional plan. We had the online story that was displayed on the home page. We had the car cards, our station signage, articles and mileposts and seat notices. We also have a Facebook and Twitter application now that promoted the train time application, in addition to a press release. I hope you found the overview informative, and if you have any questions, I'll be glad to answer them.
Any questions?
Questions?
No, but I'd like to say that it's a beautiful thing, and it's very appealing visually, and it works. So it's great. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I appreciate the positive comments.
Yeah, thank you. And as I say, by springtime, we'll have the whole system up and running. We think that'll be, that'll a further improvement upon what we've got, which is already terrific. The second item is the information item on the service reduction program. So let me take a minute on that as well. And I think, again, we need to just provide the context of that. Last year, when we were facing budget issues, we put together a plan, as did the other agencies, that involved both cuts to administration as well as to service. We were able to do a significant amount of administrative reductions at the time, so that the amount we had for service reductions was relatively smaller than some of the other agencies. You then recall that with the bailout in Albany, there was not a need to implement the service reductions, which is something we were all very pleased about. Subsequently, come December, there was, again, a major financial problem hit the MTA, and the board approved these service reductions as part of the budget, with an understanding that there might be some fine-tuning of what was in the original plan because it was done so quickly and events had changed. So what Metro North has done is we have come forward to meet the requirement that we have in terms of level of reductions, and have a proposed program of what those reductions would be. We've put them, let me start by saying that from the management standpoint, none of this is pleasant or is how we prefer doing things. As you know, we spent a lot of time building our business. This is not something that we like doing. On the other hand, given the financial circumstances, we recognize what needs to get done. So we put together a program that had a number of tenets to it. It was, one, to affect the fewest number of riders, was to minimize the extent of the impact to those riders, maintaining overall network coverage. We were going to operate our service within our existing guidelines, and then finally to save money and cost efficiency where we were able to. So what we're now going forward with is a set of reductions, which I will explain in a minute. These then become the basis of public hearings. They're now on the website. They become the basis of public hearings to be held in early March, then followed by a board action thereafter. So that's the timing. So these changes are as follows for Metro North. And let me add as well that we, in the case of west of Hudson, we must get approval of New Jersey Transit. We cannot make these unilaterally. With respect to the New Haven line, we need to have the approval of the state of Connecticut as well. We cannot make those unilaterally. The changes consist of, in the first instance, it is to reduce our train lengths to have a higher occupancy on our trains. This will affect about 12,000 people, mostly on the Harlem-Hudson line. It'll save $2.8 million a year due to lower car miles. The impact here is a number of people will be riding trains, particularly during the rush hours, that now will be crowded. All the seats will be filled. We will have people standing more in the doorways. We have programmed it so that we think on normal circumstances everyone will be able to get a seat. But on days when ridership's a little higher for whatever reason, as well as we know people like to stand on the doorways as opposed to middle seats, we will see the trains will feel and be much more crowded. In addition, we have reduced train service. We've discontinued 13 trains east of Hudson. On the Hudson line, we are combining 3 weekday evening off-peak trains. What this ultimately means is people traveling north of Ossining will have a 12-minute longer ride. On the Harlem line, we are combining 3 trains. We're combining 2 trains and eliminating 1 train. What this means is that people traveling on the combined trains to the north, the uppermost stations, will have a longer ride. There'll be a loss of express service to Scarsdale and Hartsdale. In addition, we had on the evenings, we will now have a 75-minute gap. We are eliminating the 1029 train to Southeast, which means that right now we have trains every 45 minutes. This is a market we've targeted to expand. It's a discretionary market. We'll now have a 75-minute gap in service to those stations. On the New Haven line, we'll be eliminating 2 midday trains, express trains to and from New Haven in the middle of the day, and then we'll also be eliminating 1 late-night train there. On the west of Hudson, on the Port Jervis line, we are eliminating 2 trains. I should say we are proposing to eliminate. Let me be clear on that term. They are, one is the 9:20 off-peak train from Port Jervis to Hoboken would be eliminated. We would move the 11:30 train earlier, so there'd be one less train there. And at night, we would be eliminating the 627 train. We would then move the 702 and 757 trains, so people would have a longer headway than they now have. On the Pascack Valley train, we would be eliminating 2 trains. One is the first train of the day, the 456 train, and then the second would be the 655 peak train to Spring Valley. So that is laid out in the memo. Those service cuts provide savings of about $2.6 million to meet the Metro North target of $5.4 million. So that is the proposal. They say that'll be part of the public hearing process. The implementation date, we have to work out what that is. We have to coordinate that on this side of the river with our overall scheduling process. West of the river would have to be coordinated with New Jersey Transit. So I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Howard, will this require layoffs or staffing changes?
Right. The way we will do this is we will defer. This is a reduction of positions. There's a reduction of about 10 positions as part of this. We would defer hiring people. We do not anticipate layoffs at this point.
Susan.
Howard, I understand how hard it's been for your staff to slice away at a system that they love. And I understand the criteria that you used. I think you need to add another criteria. I find that eliminating 2 trains on the Port Jervis line disproportionately hurts west of Hudson service. To lose a morning train when we only have 13 trains all day long is almost 8% of our inbound service. To lose a peak afternoon train, the total impact affects 12% of our commuters on the Port Jervis line. That's unacceptable. You know already that there's a disproportion between the amount of money that my county sends to MTA and the 70 cents we get back on our dollar. This is an opportunity to make that discrepancy better, and it's only made worse by these cuts. I ask that you relook at this.
Carl.
Howard, I also echo basically what Susan just said. You know, we have the same thing in Rockland County with the disparity. And to do this to us right now, everybody is, you know, they haven't even recuperated from, you know, from the value gap that we have was enacted a couple of months ago. And I think that because this is such a small amount of money compared to the overall big picture, I think that we really should try to look around and see if we can spread this out somewhere else amongst all the other agencies. And that's really all I have to say.
Any other, Susan?
I don't mean to make it sound like I think the cuts only hurt the Port Jervis and the Pascack Valley line. I know that's not true. I know what it's doing to east of Hudson because we have commuters who go east of Hudson. These are very, very difficult cuts for the entirety of Metro North, but I do ask that you relook.
Carl?
No.
Well, I can tell you that, you know, over the years since I've been here, and that's 16 years, Metro North has always run its operation as a business. It's kept its payroll in line. I think if you look at the number of positions we've had going back 15 or so years, you're going to find a very, very small increase. And consequently, when we have to make these kinds of cuts to an organization that is really kept lean and mean, it really cuts into the bone. So while there are some indications that some feel that we've not taken upon ourselves our share of the burden, I think myself and the rest of the committee beg to differ with them. Okay. Procurements? I think we have one procurement.
Yeah, we have one procurement, and let me just take a minute on this. This is a very good story. This is a competitive bid procurement for waste technology services. This was something we did, as you know, on all procurements, we are constantly looking for efficiencies. We started by looking at, and this is the service that does all the environmental waste that we generate from an operating standpoint, capital project standpoint. So it's a very critical project, a critical contract, to us. So the first thing is we looked at, can we do this multi-agency? We've laid out why there are certain differences, and it doesn't really make sense to do this multi-agency given the geographic dispersion between us and the other properties. The second thing is we then went through the RFP process, and the incumbent, who was WTS, Waste Technology Services, provided first of all, not only we have a good experience with them, a very good proposal, as well as, and what I'm most pleased on, was the lowest price. And when we looked at the pricing, they basically proposed a 10% reduction in rates off of their existing rates. So going forward, the next 5 years will be 10% lower. What we further did is, based on that, we reduced the amount that we put in the contract from $10 million to $9 million to reflect that 10% reduction. So we think there's a real savings here with this contract, and it's one I'm pleased of. So with that, this is one for your, I believe this is one for your approval.
I need a motion. Second. Any questions or comments?
Yeah, question. This is great, 10%. I mean, do you have any idea why that, everything is going up today?
Mm-hmm.
But do you have any idea why they did that?
Well, I'm not sure everything's going up, but I would ask either Anthony or Seth, do you want to speak to that?
Anthony can add this. I think it's a well-managed contract, and it's a vendor that understands what it does. We took a look at the bid, and we looked. They have to bid a whole array of 60 or 80 or 90 items, but we took a look at what it is that they provide the bulk of their work on, and we saw that in the areas where the highest volume, their bid prices were very reasonable, and in fact it come down. So the 10% came on the large work. Maybe they see, because they're getting those volumes, they can provide it at a little bit lower price.
That's great.
Yeah, it's very good.
Okay, I'm going to call the question. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Carried. I don't think we need an executive session. Our next meeting is going to be Monday, February 22nd at 8:30 a.m. Need a motion to adjourn? Second? All in favor? None against.